All right, chapter 9, lesson 13, subtracting with renaming. All right, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated, but if you pay attention, it's not too hard. So, everybody knows that when we do a subtraction problem, let's say I have 2 minus 5. 2 minus 5 is hard because we need the bigger number to be on top. With a fraction, this is where the renaming comes in. So let's look at problem number 1 here. Problem number 1 on page 690 is 5 and 2 fifths minus 3 and 4 fifths. Okay, so it doesn't look like all the problems on these pages are same denominator, but we're going to talk about how to make this work. So let's look at these really quick. So the whole numbers, this one is bigger, so we're good to go here. But when we look at these, they have a similar denominator, but there's a 2 here and a 4 here. So how do we solve this? Well, this is where renaming comes in. So any whole number, so 1 would be equal to 5 fifths. So any numerator that is the same as the denominator equals 1. So we can actually borrow from this whole number. So we can turn this into 4, and we borrowed 5 fifths from this. So if we have 5 fifths here, 5 fifths plus 2 fifths would be 7 fifths. So this would be 4 and 7 fifths minus 3 and 4 fifths. And what we've done here now is we've made it so the numerator on the upper number is larger than the numerator on the bottom number. And we did that by borrowing from the whole number. Once again, when we borrow 1 from this, we are taking 5 fifths away. We're leaving this as 4, and we're adding these 5 fifths to this 2 fifths. And 5 fifths plus 2 fifths is 7 fifths. And we're left with the 4. So this is 4 and 7 fifths. So now when I do the math, 7 minus 4 would be 3 fifths, and 3 minus 4 would be 1. So the correct answer here would be 1 and 3 fifths. And we did that by borrowing from this whole number. Okay, so let's look at another problem here. Let's look at number 2. And number 2 is 4 and 3/8 and 1 and 5/8. And once again, the numerator here is smaller than the numerator here, so we have to borrow from this 4. Okay, the easiest way to do it is to show what I'm doing here, but put it down over here once I've converted things. So I'm going to borrow 1 here, and this will turn into the 3 as your whole number. Now, it's 8, so I just borrowed 8/8. So 8/8 plus 3/8 would be 9, 10, 11/8. 3 and 11/8. And I know this looks weird because this is a mixed number fraction, but this is an improper fraction, and normally they don't happen together, but in this case we're going to use it. So 3 and 11/8 would be the same as 4 and 3/8 minus 1 and 5/8. Now, if I take 5 away from 11, I should get 6/8. Okay, if I take 1 away from 3, I should get 2. Now, this is not simplest form because they're both even numbers. So if I divide this by 2 and I divide this by 2, I will get 3/4, which is an even number. So the correct answer here would be 2 and 3/4. Now, notice when I do simplest form, I don't touch the whole number at all. It's the same here, it's the same here. I just made the fractional part into simplest form. 3/4, so if I have fourths here, 1, 2, 3/4, and I have eighths here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 6/8 looks like this. 2, 4, it looks like this. So I would shade this much of it in here, 6/8. And when I simplify it, it turns into 3/4, which would be this much. And it's exactly the same amount in a fraction. Okay, 3/4 is exactly the same as 6/8. All right, so let's choose another one here. Let's choose a little bit more difficult one. Let's do number 6 here. Now 6 is a little more complicated because I have a whole number with no fraction and a fraction here. So I would do 4 minus 1 and 1/8. Okay, so now look, there's no fraction here, and I need there to be one to make this work. So the denominator here is 8. So if I borrow a number here, this will turn into 3 and 8/8. 3 and 8/8 is 4. Okay, minus 1 and 1/8. 8 minus 1 would be 7/8, which is simplest form, and 3 minus 1 would be 2. 2 and 7/8. Simple. Let's try one more. Let's try this one, number 7. 12 minus 5 and 1/6. Minus 5 and 1/6. The denominator here is 6. So we're going to use 6 for the denominator up here. We're going to borrow 1 up here and make this 11 because we're borrowing from it, and 6/6. 11 and 6/6 is 12. Minus 5 and 1/6. 6 minus 1 is 5. 5/6 is simplest form because this is odd and this is even. And 11 minus 5 is 6. 6 and 5/6. Okay? You should be able to do this. All right. You're going to do numbers 2 through 10. Do not estimate, just subtract. All right, 2 through 10, ready, go.